Okay, in the last session, we created a single stereo file from all of that hard work, all of the tracks, their levels, their effects, all down to a single file like a WAV file or an AFF file. Now you might think that we're done. Well, I mean, we kind of could be. That file could be played anywhere, but there is a final process that can make your song kind of final, if you know what I mean. So what the heck is mastering? Well, mastering used to be this black art that was done by a relatively few people whose job was to take the final mix down, usually on a 1/4 inch master tape, and convert that into a long groove that would be played by a disc cutting lathe for pressing into records. You remember those things, right? Records. So basically, here is the physics of that process. We took vibrations through the air, fed them into microphones, recorded them, mashed them all around, and finally had them convert back into a single groove into a record. And that stylus on your record player would move back and forth in an analogy of the recorded signal. That's why they call it analog. So as a mastering engineer, you would have to know how to finally cut those grooves to make the record loud enough. But if there was too much bass or if it was too loud, then those grooves would be wider because you only had so much real estate on a little 45. Then the song would have to be shorter. That's why those songs back in the Beatle days, it had to be around 3 minutes long. So I say all this as a bit of history, and it's kind of interesting to see where we've come from. But the truth of the matter is, for all of us right now, is that that's history and its limitations are no longer an issue for us. Our job in mastering today is all really about maximizing the signal and making a wimpy recording really a gutsy one. Check out this mixdown of an amateur band on MySpace. It looks fine, but look at the average level of that waveform. They're not using about 6 dB there. Let's look at a commercially sold single by Taylor Swift. Look at its level. Big difference, huh? Let's listen to them both.
We've had a lot of time to overcome the tears. And when you're 15, feeling like there's nothing to figure out.
Now, if your song is played alongside that song on the radio, what's the perception going to be out there on your audience? Amateur, wimpy, and gutless, right? We need to pump this guy up, and that is the job of mastering. It's really our final chance to do anything creative on our song before we let go of it. Our job is to maximize the loudness, equalize the frequency spectrum, tweak the stereo, spread the final across it, and also limit the overall level to avoid distortion. Now the trouble is that many engineers have got involved in the loudness wars where they want to make their final product sound louder than the next guy's. Now that's all well and good, but there's a law of diminishing returns in play here. You can't push the levels up and up and up without problems. Just for fun, listen to this overly compressed version of a song that we all know. It's louder, right? But it's absolutely tiring to listen to. In fact, a couple of years ago, Metallica released a CD called Death Magnetic that was so loud that many people complained and actually wanted to return the CD. And if metal fans are complaining it's too loud, then it's too loud. Just Google Death Magnetic Distortion to see some of the comments. It's very, very interesting. So maximizing the loudness is good. Crushing the signal is bad. Let's go ahead and look at the types of mastering effects that are available. Now, first and foremost, compression is the first tool that we'll look at. And we've seen compression before, but mastering compression is a little different. For starters, it has to be stereo, right? We're dealing with a stereo file. It's quite often multi-band in nature as well. In other words, instead of just a single compressor squashing the entire signal down, a multi-band compressor has different compression settings for each of those bands of frequencies within your mix. Perhaps maybe it's really crushing the low end frequencies, maybe squeezing the mids and then barely touching the highs. That gives us a whole lot more control than just a single dumb compressor. Then we can use an EQ, which can then cut or boost multiple bands of your mix and kind of even out that sonic spectrum. Now, it's always advisable to use EQ after compression, as compression tends to boost certain frequencies, and setting EQ after it allows you to kind of make adjustments for that coloration that the compressor might have added. We can then tweak the stereo spread of the final mix, usually in the low end and high end independently. A good rule of thumb is to narrow the low end down into a kind of a mono source and then spread out the highs a little bit across the speakers. We can then add a final limiter to make sure we don't go into the red. You can see why we'd want to put that guy at the end, right? At the end of the chain. Now, some of you might have some mastering effects, like in some of the BR recorders, some of the latest Tascam recorders have mastering effects built in. If so, you'll probably see a single mastering effect chain made up of individual mastering effects like what we just discussed. More often than not, you can just scroll through preset chains of these effects and listen to which one gives you kind of the best result. You can then go ahead and tweak those individual effects to some degree on these hardware multi-tracks, and that may give you the results that you want. But if there's any time to lean on your computer, then now would be that time. And here's why. While jumping from a hardware multi-track to a software multi-track is a bit of a challenge, you need to make sure, that you have the right interfaces and need to work on a right hard drive speed, latency issues to be able to record and play back in real time. The process of mastering is on a computer only requires a pretty basic computer, and you simply get your files in and out via a little USB thumb drive or something like that. You'll need to use some nice mastering software, but a lot of these packages come with free trials, so you can easily download them and try them out. Now, I actually have some suggestions, and here are some of my favorites. Actually, if you already use a software like Pro Tools, Cubase, or Reason Record, they have some sort of mastering software built right in. Now, if you want to go the software route, here are two of my favorites.
Ozone 4 comes with a new, redesigned preset manager containing 140 presets designed by professionals, giving you a great starting point for your mix or master. The preset manager can now also be undocked and viewed as a separate, resizable floating window, making it easier to see how presets affect Ozone's settings. Inside of Ozone 4's preset manager are new macro presets. Macro presets help you to take Ozone 4's presets one step further by customizing them to fit the particular character of the music you are working with. Each of these macro presets contains one or more macro faders, which are directly linked to control parameters inside one or more of Ozone's mastering modules. Macro faders let you control key Ozone parameters in real time directly from the preset manager. While each macro preset comes with many pre-designed macro faders right out of the box, by clicking on the Advanced tab, you can edit the current settings or create your own custom configurations. To add your own macro fader to a preset, simply click on the Add Macro Fader button. Give your macro fader a name, and use the parameter menu to define what Ozone 4 parameters you wish to control. You can also use the start, end, and scale values to define the range and behavior of that parameter with respect to your macro fader. Other new features include a new compare function, allowing you to easily do A/B comparisons of different settings. The use of folders is now fully supported, letting you categorize your presets. You can drag, drop, and rearrange presets, create new folders, and mix and match settings from different presets, all from within the preset manager, making Ozone 4 the fastest way to get a great sounding master.
These guys are a bit of an investment, around $200 to $300, maybe even $500, but here's where actually you can make some of that money back. Imagine that you sprung the $200 or $300 for these guys and bought one of these mastering suites, and you got so good at it that you could master with the pros, okay? Guess what? Every home recording musician in the world who is uneasy with mastering, doesn't even know what it is now your potential customer. What if you could put up a small website and started hanging around some of the forums and charged maybe $30 to $50 a song to master their songs? They could easily transfer their tunes via SoundCloud, and you could start gathering your presets for different types of genres and make some decent side cash. Anyway, downloading a few trials and getting some results is really a great way to get started in mastering. Here are some of my favorite tips and tricks in terms of mastering. Number one is, how is the original mix down? If you have a bunch of problems on your final mix, then sometimes the best thing to do is just go back and fix that mix. If your guitar is too loud in the mix, then mastering EQ is probably not going to be able to fix that without screwing up a lot of other things that are in that same sonic space. Sometimes it's just better to go back to the drawing board and mix your song down again. Also, if you're making a lot of EQ changes in the mastering EQs, like 5 dB or more, it's probably a warning signal that you need to probably go back and remix your song again. Keep in mind that we can actually use multi-band compression as kind of a form of EQ in terms of boosting one part of your spectrum over the others. Now, if you find that compression is kind of taking the life out of your mix, then perhaps try slowing down the attack and release, so some of those transients which give your song life are able to get through before they get squashed out. And if you're recording dance tracks, you may want to play with the release until it syncs up with the BPM of your song to get that popular kind of just pumping sound you hear at the clubs, so it kind of pumps with quarter notes. Now, a rule of thumb in mastering EQ is to keep your cuts narrow and your boosts wide. The cuts are corrective of problems, and your boosts are to kind of compensate wider over bands, so you can keep them a little bit wider. I normally give a slight boost around 8 to 10K to compensate for the slight kind of dulling that a compressor can introduce, and then add a little air at around 14K on up. Now, a high-pass filter positioned around 30 Hertz will pull out any subsonic stuff that's just kind of eating up the power, where there's really nothing of value down there. Don't be afraid of using the presets as well that come with your mastering effects. They've been made by some very smart people who know a lot about this subject, a lot smarter than I am. While you may not use them verbatim, they're normally a good starting point and a way to kind of reverse engineer a sound. Find one you like and kind of pull it apart and see how they achieve that sound. And finally, use the best monitors that you can afford. It's an exercise in futility to make all of these sonic adjustments when the very system you're using on is sonically flawed. Does that make sense? So basically, we set up a number of files in a playlist right down here, and then when you hit play, we can hear that particular song. And if you wanted to loop around a particular point, then you can set your loop points to the beginning and end. So if there's a particular part of your song that you're really working on, you can set up those loop points to just loop right between those points. Okay, so now let's go through some of these presets. Actually, let me pull that out. Okay, now we're hearing these presets.
Lately, baby, you've been a wild one.
like you can see the chain of all those effects as you go through these presets as well.
You do too. I might be kind of crazy, but you're reaching critical mass. I hope this passing phase doesn't pass, 'cause you're oh wow.
Okay, let's go to the next one, which is more of an R&B tune. Just select that guy, and we can go ahead and play that, and let's go through some of these presets. Now listen to the bottom end of this. Listen to the bass particularly.
We sing a song to lift your name, lift your name. We give you glory for what you've done. We give you glory for your one son. You brought the power, yes. You brought the glory. Come on, you brought what's holy to your name.
I mean, we were happy with that mix before. I didn't even realize how much better it could sound with mastering. Let's hear another example.
Yeah. They say that my section is filled with violence, hectic and filled with sirens. And second, the kid is dying, resting in bitter silence. I'm destined to give the guidance, destined to kick the science. I'm ripping you little kittens, just stepped in a bit of lines. I laugh at your crew for real, cause y'all the type to paint your guns blue and really think that you're packing some blue steel. Sit back with my crew and chill, stacking that loot for real. So bags, so crack, even be packing the blue pills. I'm Patterson's new thrill, I'm rapping this too ill.
Now let's go through some mastering examples. Whenever the graphic on the top of the screen is faded, then that means that this is before and after. Let's listen to this mix before. Okay, so that's without mastering, right? Let's throw some mastering on it. A lot bigger, right? What about this one? Now this is an example of a mix down that you were happy with. You mixed everything down and thought that was pretty cool. Let's throw some mastering on it. You hear that sheen on that synth? So you guys believe in mastering now? Actually, I've been leaving this business card up here on the screen because I really think it's a gold mine, absolutely waiting to happen. It's in your court. So once you have the final track, you'll want to export it and archive it along with all of your multi-track masters and mix down. Here's a checklist. I would do the individual tracks dry and the individual tracks also with effects, maybe your vocal comps, a mix down pre-mastered, and then a mix down after that mastered. As these files can be pretty large and there may be maybe some alternate takes for each track, it's probably not best to do them on a CDR with only 700 megs, but maybe try a DVD-R, which gives you about 6 times that storage for only a few pennies more. Now, I would keep all the files at their highest sample rate and bit depth that you can, but the final file should be dithered down to 16-bit 14.1K if you're going to be putting out some audio CD. Now, if you're prepared to distribute a song on an iTunes or MP3 player, then you can make it into an MP3 or AAC file at normally around 120 or 160 kbs. Now, I can't recommend enough the importance for keeping your files organized, particularly if you ever want to work on those tracks again. I mean, maybe you're on a cheap multi-track this year, and then you migrate to a high-end Pro Tools rig next year. You'll be really glad that you exported those files out of your old multi-track so that they can be easily worked on inside your new DAW with all those bells and whistles. Now, you'll usually be using a USB export to get your files out of your hardware multi-tracks. If your multi-track allows you to do that, then I would normally have a section on that product's DVD that shows you how to do that in those product-specific ones. If worse comes to the worst, then you can always just record each track out in solo mode into your new recorder. Just make sure that you know exactly when each track starts. You actually even might want to record a beep at the top of each track right across all of them so that you can sync them later on in your computer. So in terms of getting your music out there to your potential fans, you have a few options. In fact, there's never been more options. If you want to sell your CDs, then I would partner with a company that specializes in this area. Disc makers and Oasis also are great resources for recording musicians who specialize in the duplication and packaging of your final CD. They have great packages that start just from a few $100s. They can give you that record shop ready CD complete in a jewel case and all that packaging. Now there are others that do this kind of work. You should shop around, but I know that these two that I mentioned, Disc makers and Oasis, make a great product, and they've been doing it, really for a long time. So once you have a final CD, that you can then sell them at gigs or anywhere that you have direct access to your fans. But we all know that the internet is really where a lot of people find and buy music. A great resource to sell your CDs online is at CD Baby and others. They keep a stockpile of your CDs and take orders over the internet. They ship them out for you and send you a check at the end of the month. Now, another resource I use is CreateSpace, who is actually owned by Amazon. They go a little differently because they actually keep a disk image of your CD and the artwork and just make one CD at a time when someone orders it. There's no inventory there. You can also get Amazon MP3 downloads just by signing up with them too. I really like CreateSpace because once you set them up, you can just forget about them. We have every DVD, all of our training DVDs with them. That means that all of our DVDs are on Amazon, and I never have to check stock because they just have our disk images on their computers, on their servers, and they just send me a check at the end of the month. I do nothing, they do it all. It's very cool. Okay, so obviously the big player is iTunes, and who would have thunk it a few years ago? How many massive record stores have gone away? It's absolutely amazing. Anyway, there are a lot of ways that you can get your song into iTunes, and I've placed, there are ways you can find out on the internet. My favorite way is using a service called TuneCore that takes just music and syndicates it into a ton of online music sites, like the ones that you see on this screen. But given the amount of music out there and the level of competition, just getting your music out there, that's the easy part. You then need to find an audience, and this comes down to good old-fashioned networking and marketing. And if you're an artist who just wants to make your own music and you really don't care, about popularity or anything like that, I'm not going to try to convince you that you need to, be this high-pressure salesman in terms of marketing your music. It's just, I just do want to say that if you've made something good, then it would be a shame not to have that thing heard.
Greetings, internets. This is Ethan Diamond from Bandcamp, here with a
5 minutes 57 seconds
taste of what we're about.
Let's go!
Alright, so here we are on the Bandcamp powered site for 20 Minute Loop. You can see that it's super clean. They've got their discography running down the right hand side, nice big cover art, a custom header graphic, and the track listing and liner notes for their latest album. Fans can stream the album from here by clicking the play button, and you can see the yellow bar fills up as the track buffers, and playback is nice and zippy. Now let's say I want to get more information about this track, called Mercury Vapor. I click it, and now I'm on its track page where I can play it, read its liner notes, lyrics, or download it. The band's decided to make this particular track free and available at highest quality, so when I open the download menu, I see all the various formats we offer. There's 4 flavors of MP3, AAC, OGG, FLAC, and Apple Lossless. You upload a single lossless audio file, and then we take care of doing all those conversions for you. Here's another track the 20 Minute Loop has decided to charge for, giving away the 128K MP3, but letting fans name their price for the higher quality formats. Setting that up is totally easy in Bandcamp, and I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. So let's go ahead and start that track downloading. Alright, well, one thing that drives me crazy is when I go to a band site, download a track, and end up with a file named something like master3final.mp3, and it has no cover art and no information about who it's by or what album it's from. So we decided to just take care of that for you. As you build out your site on Bandcamp, we keep all the metadata of the downloadable tracks up to date. So check it out. I'll tab over to my desktop where that file was saved, do a get info on it, and there's the cover art, track name, album title, artist, year, and you can see that all of that just sails into iTunes for me. Now let's jump back over to the track page, and next to download, you can see that I can also share this track with my friends. I can email or IM it, post it to Facebook or MySpace, or embed it on my blog. Let's choose MySpace, and here's a preview of what the player will look like. I just have to copy paste this code and I'm good to go. Now everything you've seen so far has been from the fan's perspective, so let's take a look at a few things from the band's point of view. We're now on 20 Minute Loop's stats page, where they can view their plays, something we call buzz, and downloads, and slice all that by year, month, week, and so on. This shows the total number of plays for each of their tracks, and even breaks down those plays by whether they were complete, partial, or just a skip. Let's sort by complete plays, and this helps them figure out which tracks their fans are really into, versus, say, which ones were just getting plays because they happen to be the first track on the record. Now let's go over to Buzz. This shows all the places out there on the web where people are linking to their music, and it even shows all the places where that music has been embedded. So this gives them an easy way to better engage their fans. For example, you can see that the track Windsor McKay is getting some visitors from a site called FilmCow. So let's just click that link, and here on some corner of the web that the band has probably never heard of are people talking about their music. They can now join in that discussion, mention they've got a new record out, talk about an upcoming show, and build their fan base. Now let's take a look at how easy it is to build out your site on Bandcamp. I've just signed up for a new account, so I click on the Add a Track button. Let's give that track a name, pop over here and upload some cover art, and start the upload of the audio file. This one isn't going to be part of an album, so I'll skip that, set a release date, and make the 128K MP3 available for free, but charge a set price of $1 for the higher quality versions. Now here's where I'd fill out my credits and lyrics, but for the sake of time, let's just click Save. And now we're on the track page. I'll click up here to upload a custom header, and my site is already on its way. Alright, one last quick thing. On a track or album page, your fans can view the cover art or pick a visualization. Now, if that word makes you think of seeing Laser Floyd at the planetarium on shrooms, adjust your expectations.
Hey brother, won't you break these chains? Tired of running, won't you let me win? Be you, and me, be cool, the deadliest MC.
Your fans can even insert the visualizations into the embedded players, thereby making your music even more viral. We have an EQ as well, but forget this. Here's Bandcamp.
Back then you were a 12-year-old stoner. You listened to Zeppelin all day.
Alright, if you're not already on the site, please check us out at bandcamp.mu. That's MU as in muh, or making love underwater. And from the 274 hardworking people of Bandcamp,
Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time. Thanks for your time.
So, how do you market music? Well, the trouble with music is that it's definitely not a need like food or water. People aren't dying for the lack of music. It also isn't really searchable like an article or a book. The way that most people learn about music is they either hear it on the radio or a friend recommends it. We may not be able to be lucky enough to have our song heard on the radio, so our best bet is probably to be recommended by a friend or associate. So first, get an account on all of the social networking sites, but I would most definitely start with MySpace, Facebook, and YouTube. And once you get on board with these guys, then you can use a number of plugins that allow you to post your music on your profile. And the powerful thing about social networking is that they make it very easy for your friends to be able to share your songs and content. And once people start to like your music, then they'll want to keep up with your latest songs, and you can post, say, comments that saying that you're working on some new stuff, and it really starts to spread virally around. YouTube is huge for this kind of stuff. the most recent YouTube sensation is Justin Bieber, got plucked out of obscurity, and this type of story just would have never happened 10 years ago. By the way, I've had over 2.5 million views and growing on YouTube, and it counts for a lot of our traffic. But here's the one tip to consider. No one's looking for David Wills online. They don't know who I am. They are looking for a particular product tutorial, and because the title of my video includes that, they come to me. If your music is in the style of, say, Peter Gabriel or Beyonce, then place those keywords in your title. The internet runs on keywords. Look for the songs that are similar to yours and mimic those keywords, descriptions, and tags in your video. Maybe place comments in similar music videos so you can start attracting viewers to your stuff. Well, congratulations, you did it. I can't believe that you're probably in the top 3% of recording musicians out there in terms of your knowledge now. It really blows my mind that there are stats out there of how many people buy courses like this and never even crack the case. You got through the whole thing. So I'm very confident that you have learned the essentials, gosh, that will just help you your whole life as a recording musician. So let's go ahead and swear you in. Okay, you ready? I solemnly swear on the threat of bodily dismemberment that I will use this knowledge for good and not evil, and will help my fellow musician on any occasion, including but not limited to sucky mixes, incorrect usage of aux sends, and any other home recording faux pas. Sworn in this day, you are all duly deputized to go out and really make some great music. So, I mean, where do we go from here? Let's take all of this knowledge, and first I just want to encourage you to practice what you've learned today. Use this course and companion DVD and just go through the material a few times in the coming days and weeks. Everything I've ever read about retention says that you really have to use what you've learned or you'll lose it. So practice, practice, practice. I would also encourage you to get together with like-minded musicians. It's not often that we get to see each other face to face, and why not keep it going with maybe a local home recording meetup group? In fact, have you seen meetup.com? It's a way for people who are interested in the same types of things to regularly meet up at, say, a library or a coffee shop. Why not start up your local chapter? There's a lot to be said in terms of making local connections there. Now, having said that, you can always connect with people all over the planet via our forum at ProAudioEXP.com. It's a great place to post any struggles or challenges that you might have been making, or maybe even a link to some of your finished masterpieces that you've been working on. Fantastic way to help each other out and kind of critique each other's works. Even post a picture of your studio. It's a really cool place for that. So remember to break down your skills by using some backing tracks and record vocals over those karaoke tracks. As I said earlier, there's no better way to concentrate on the star of the mix, the lead vocal. Remember that? Also, a word for the perfectionists out there. I've read many years ago the best way to become prolific anything is to write for the wastebasket. In other words, don't wait until you get it perfect before you produce anything. Create a bunch of stuff and maybe make some goals of maybe writing and recording a song a month or something like that. No one needs to hear them, but just do it for the exercise of honing your craft. And finally, teach others. The best way to retain what you've learned is by teaching it to others. I mean, catch up with some fellow musicians who are maybe having a hard time doing this stuff that we just learned. It'll help them and dramatically help you retain what you've learned here in this course. And might I say, it might even make a handy little second income from it. The day I made up a business card that said audio consultant on it was the day I started making a living out of it. You can easily make $50 or $100 an hour going out teaching musicians how to use this stuff. This really might be the start of a little side business there. So in closing, thank you so much for your time. I hope you've had a really great time learning this stuff. And if you're so inclined to record a testimonial encouraging others to check out this course, please leave them on our website. So thanks for your time. My name is David Wills, and ciao for now.